Greetings, my lovelies. This is Blake here, and before I start talking about Seventh Son, I feel like I should clarify my feelings towards Jupiter Ascending. When I filmed my vlog the other day, I was in kind of a sluggish, lethargic, and irritated mood, and I believe I took that out on the movie itself, which was wrong of me to do. I came across as very overly negative, as if I thought Jupiter Ascending was a bad movie, although I'm sure I did that shit that I really hate when I complain about the film for the bulk of the review, only to say, it was alright. And I did think Jupiter Ascending was alright, but for whatever reason, I forgot to talk about the things I genuinely enjoyed about it. So instead of taking up too much time in this video or making another video, I just thought I'd post an article on Facebook, and I'll include the link in my show more section below, where I just talk about what the film does well, where I think it could have improved, and, well, just once again clarifying my feelings towards the overall movie. Jupiter Ascending was okay, it just wasn't anything special. Let's go ahead and move on to Seventh Son. I think everybody expected this film to be a disaster, and it kinda was, based on its box office intake as well as its critical reception. Much like World War Z, it had a troubled production, but unlike World War Z, it did not really have a happy ending, but honestly, I think general audiences won't mind it as much. To me, I just saw a very conventional, ordinary blockbuster. I didn't see anything that was abnormally bad or, especially good. It has a very conventional, formulaic story where a character believes his lifestyle is beneath him, and he wants something more in life, and then that more arrives and brings him on this epic journey, and at first it's all fun and games until things start to turn south and they realize how much they took for granted, and wish to return to their old lifestyle, but they no longer can because they've come too far and they have to now resolve this conflict and, exceed what people expect of them, and there's a love interest, and they have a real shallow romance, but the film keeps telling us it's something deeper. In a lot of ways, this sounds identical to Jupiter Ascending. The difference is Jupiter Ascending tried to distract us from this by bogging down the narrative with a lot of creative but underdeveloped ideas that weren't unconventional, but at the same time, it caused the film to collapse under its own weight, and that really affected the pacing to where I was more frustrated with it. Seventh Son, in comparison, or contrast, it has none of those ambitions. It never tries to exceed what people expect of it. It just wants to be an ordinary blockbuster that plays it very safe. This is good in a way because it helped the film go at a smooth pace. It was an easy film to sit through. I was never bored, exhausted, or frustrated. But at the same time, it's not as well written. I don't admire it as much. I mean, I doubt I'll remember Jupiter Ascending for very long, but it probably will stay within my memory much longer than Seventh Son does. And just for its ambitions alone, Jupiter Ascending is probably worth watching more, but it comes down to, I think, what you want out of these movies. Seventh Son is pretty stupid at times. You could tell that there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama because it seems like they were rewriting this movie on a daily basis. Various pieces of information that become important later on are just sort of dropped in there without any real build-up or context. So, for example, the main character wears this medallion given to him by his mother, and alright, you figure then it might be important, but they just never bring it up for a long, long time, and then suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, it becomes the MacGuffin that could potentially cause the end of the world. A better movie would have the information revealed more in the beginning, so there's more foreshadowing, and they would never let us forget about this medallion. But Seventh Son was pretty clumsily written, so it did not go that route. And then there's the segment where they encounter a Bogart, not a bad scene at all, but it doesn't really tie into anything else. It would have made more sense if they had the main villainess send the Bogart after them or something like that. Or maybe even have that, introduced early on before Julianne Moore's character becomes so prominent. So in the end, that almost felt like padding, albeit pretty entertaining padding. And then there's just various inconsistencies, like the main character can see the future, or he has visions of the future, but at one point he actually has visions of the past, and the film did not need that at all. But, we're not really... the film obviously isn't that concerned about its own logic. It just wants to provide a good time. It wants you to pay more attention to Jeff Bridges taking on a giant fucking bear than it wants you to think about its writing. So you should know what kind of viewer you are. If you're listening to this and you think, wow, this movie does seem really stupid and I will not enjoy it for that reason, then you should not watch Seventh Son. Or if you're just watching this and think, I'm a pretty easygoing viewer. I've enjoyed the Transformers movies and most summer blockbusters. As long as they are entertaining for the spectacle, then yeah, maybe you should watch it. It just all comes down to you. I'm a pretty easygoing viewer myself, so even though I acknowledge the bad points, the stupidity, I didn't mind as much thanks to the strengths. So in terms of the spectacle, I really did enjoy the monster designs. Julianne Moore's dragon in particular is really cool looking. It's part dragon, part demon. There's parts of it that are really skeletal, like her tail, but at the same time, parts of her seem to be made out of some sort of steel. And yet she also has the red locks that Julianne Moore's character has in her human form. So that I thought was really cool. That was really creatively done. And all the various monsters have pretty slick designs as well. Unfortunately, the CGI sometimes lets them down. It's not that bad. It goes back and forth between being acceptable and unconvincing. Never too terrible to the point where it took me out of the movie, but at the same time, never excelled either. I did like the various sets and locations. It looked like they actually built, these villages and, these buildings. I could be wrong. It could have all been like green screen work, or it's probably a mix of the two, but they blended together very seamlessly if that was the case, or it may have been just really, really good green screen work. But I thought the settings were very authentic looking. The action choreography varies once again. Sometimes it's just too tightly edited to the point where it's hard to tell what is going on, and other times, very nicely choreographed, pretty intense. I never felt this film was a horror movie. It's just straight up action, so I did not do a written review for that reason. I have like a mini review written that I plan on releasing sometime when I come out with a new index page on my website. But so yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say this is great in terms of its spectacle, but it's pretty good, and I think the monster designs in particular stand out. The acting, I suppose I should go into that now, because the acting in a lot of way I think kept this movie from just being a typical summer blockbuster. It actually makes this film kind of worth it on its own. Jeff Bridges is having a blast with the role, as you'd expect. I was concerned that I would get burnt out on him, much like I did with R.I.P.D., but nah, I thought he was entertaining from beginning to end, even though I could not understand half of the things that was coming out of his mouth. But you know what? As over-the-top and awesome as he is, I think he's upstaged by Julianne Moore, who makes Eva Green look subtle in this movie. Julianne Moore is just insanely awesome. Very, very, very hammy. She's having a blast with the role, and she was my favorite part, and those scenes with her and Bridges together Oh, they were golden. In fact, they really saved what was a very anticlimactic ending just because they're together and they're talking. I could forgive the rather um, bland way they resolve this storyline just for that alone. And I thought even the younger people, did good too. I thought the main guy and the main girl, the younger ones, I don't know their names, but they're playing very bland characters, but still they had a little bit more charisma and personality than what you'd usually expect in these kinds of roles. So yeah, the cast does the best they can, and they kept this movie afloat. Otherwise, typical blockbuster. It's dumb writing, but at the same time fast paced. Pretty solid special effects, but nothing amazing. The cast has a lot of fun with it. If this sounds interesting to you, then watch it. If not, then don't. I could definitely see why critics responded poorly to this movie because, like I said, it's not a good film, but it can be enjoyed as just surface level entertainment. So that is all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed this video. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. I've done written reviews of, I actually have the list this time, Slashed Dreams, which is supposed to be a slasher, but it's not. The Woman in Black, the first one, I reviewed the second one too. Jersey Shore Shark Attack, which I believe is a sci-fi original, and Dragon Eyes with Van Damme. So read all of those, and I shall see you guys later.